Hello and welcome to this Taking Time with Tasha, where today I'm going to be working on a little bit of calligraphy. And calligraphy is something that I probably only took up maybe 18 months, 2 years ago, something like that. So I really don't claim to be an expert in this by any means. Any of you who are versed in calligraphy, you're probably going to be seeing all of my mistakes, but not being great at it is not something that ever really stops me. And I really do find that, particularly with craft practices, I'm always looking to learn something new, and really the act of practicing it is part of the appeal for me. That sort of focusing down on just this one task that isn't necessarily something that you're great at, but just that's really nice to do. And working with my hands is something that I really love. I really can't get enough of it, basically. And so almost anything that I can do that involves making something with my hands, I'm always willing to try and find time for. Now, I talk to you on a Sunday, which is, a pretty luxurious day for me. And for the interests of full disclosure, this isn't my first sort of taking time for myself for today, really. I'm, really taking some time to look after myself today. And I have, in fact, already been out for a run this morning, which was lovely. And I do really enjoy running also. With having quite a static job and being seated quite a lot of the time professionally, and then for things that I enjoy to do as my hobbies, I do find that doing something that is a little bit more active with my body is really important for that bit of balance, and running provides that for me. I'd say I've probably been running fairly consistently, so at the worst probably once every 2 weeks, at the best every day, for about 15 or so years now. And I do think that there is real benefit from being outside and being in nature and kind of immersing myself in green and seeing trees and just outside, basically. Because I am a bit of a home bird, I like to be inside, I like to be warm and comfortable. And I'm sure you will relate to that. So kind of getting myself up and out into, times that it isn't quite so comfortable. It can be cold, it can be wet, but I do think that it's really good, because then it makes me appreciate more when I am inside and I'm comfortable, I'm doing something that I like, then I'm really focused in on that, and I know that my body is cared for already for the day, if you like. And being out in that green, I don't know if anybody else had this, but I came to the colour green really late. And I mean, this is probably a bit of an embarrassing revelation for someone with a textiles degree, but it's probably only in the last, few years, maybe last 10 years, that I've really started to appreciate the colour green. I never really gave it very much thought before, but now I just think that it's so wonderful. And I genuinely, I really feel now it's good for your brain. Not just where it naturally occurs, in leaves and stuff, but from a design perspective, I'm like, green is great. I don't know why I didn't realise this before. It's a little bit like, I remember having a revelation in Savile Gardens. Aged about 8, I'd say, I had a mozzarella sandwich. And I remember my mum saying to me, oh, it's cheese and tomato. And I was like, okay, great. And then I ate it and I was like, oh my God, mozzarella is incredible. Does everybody else know about this? Do people know about mozzarella? Of course they know about mozzarella. I just didn't know about mozzarella. And I feel like that about the colour green. I just had a bit of a revelation about it. And now here in the UK, the weather is well and truly turned to autumn and everything started to go a little bit orange. And in fact, orange is another colour that I've come to really late. My colleague at work, she just looks fabulous in orange. And I've never really considered it, definitely not for myself to wear. I would just look terrible in orange, to be perfectly honest. And I think that's why I never really gave it that much thought, but orange is awesome too. I'm a little bit in love with colour, can you tell? Yeah, anyone who knows it, don't get me too started on colour because I'll go on and on. Anyway, I was thinking on my run that as much as running is something that I do as in taking time for myself, it has sort of moved further away from that for me. Because I used to do it on my own, and I was the only person kind of in my household, in my immediate vicinity, that would run. And I'm not a great runner, don't get me wrong on that front either. Like, I'm not particularly fast, I'm not particularly skilled. Like, yeah, I just do it. And that is more what it's about, and how it's about how it feels for me. I don't really worry too much about the pace or the distance. I just do what I feel, which is pretty reflective of most of these practices, to be honest. I follow my intuition quite a lot. But in recent years, my now fiance has taken up running because he started to do Ironmans, and therefore obviously he had to learn to run properly after never really running before. And so it then became something that we did together. And again, we still sometimes run separately, but a lot of the time we run together. And so it's a bit less about me taking time for myself, and then it's about us achieving something together. And then a couple of years ago, we signed my dad up for a 10K as part of his 60th birthday present. Now, I know that sounds like a horrible thing to have done. And in some ways, I guess it was. But he did used to run when he was younger, and then he stopped. And we really wanted to get him back into it because we thought it would be good for him, because he is much like me, and I thought that he could do with the release and the getting out of your own head that I think running can achieve for you. And so we knew that we'd have to do something reasonably drastic in order to make that happen. So we signed him up for a 10K, which we thought was, an achievable distance, but still a real challenge. And he worked hard towards it. We tried to help him along the way as well. And he did run the 10K in the time that he wanted to, and he's kept up the running since in the years that have gone by. So yeah, really proud of him for that. To come back to it a little bit later on in life and to rekindle that enjoyment. But watching him start to learn to run again and seeing the benefit that he was feeling from running and getting out of his own head really made me realize why I do it and what benefits I receive from it. And as much as I love embroidery, and I do love embroidery and crafts in general, like the calligraphy that I'm still working on here, part of the issue with them is that I can still think a lot whilst I'm doing it, and so it doesn't really get me out of my own head is the bit of the problem, because I need that time to be out of my own brain. Don't know if anybody else feels like they have quite a noisy brain. It's just always on about something, and so doing something quite drastic with my whole body does shut that down to an extent. It has the added benefit as well for me that if my body is tired enough, then it will sleep and my mind will also go to sleep. And sometimes I have a few issues with that. So wearing myself out, sometimes in a bit more of a drastic fashion, does have that other benefit for me, which I think is quite a big one. I'm definitely a better person, a nicer person when I've had enough sleep. Aren't we all, hey? So sometimes I find that I almost have to step away from my desire to just do crafts in my own time, and sometimes force myself out to go and do the more physical things. Yes, there are benefits for your body, of course there are. There's also dangers for your body with doing physical activities. But I do think that the mental side of things outweighs the dangers for me and provides that balance to what I do in my own time and professionally to hopefully, balance me out as a person.